Brian.
Hello.
Do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. How are you doing?
All right, you're in the executive conference room here at DX Engineering and Summit Racing. And we have with us today 4 young hams. I'm going to turn on the lights so that you can see them. And they're all going to introduce themselves to you, Brian.
Can you see our video right now? Or not yet?
Yes, I can see your video.
Okay, because we can't see our own video, but that's okay. I don't need to see our video.
All right, so Ben, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Ben, ADHFQ.
Okay.
I'm Agnes, 88IR.
Are the owls working? Okay.
I'm Grace, K8RJU.
And I'm Katie, KE8LQR.
Okay, and we have their parents in here. Brian, you have been an inspiration to many, many young hams, and we know you want to be a major league pitcher as well, but give us some inspiration here for these young folks here today.
Well, you know, it's so exciting that you guys get to go on the Youth DX adventure. I truly believe that it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and will have a very formative impact, not just in your radio worlds, but in your entire life. So be sure to soak in every moment and take lots of pictures. I vividly remember my first Youth DX adventure. It was to Costa Rica in 2017. I was 13 years old at the time. I can just remember the anticipation of the travels, the camaraderie of our team, the meals that we shared together, and most importantly, the raging pileups. Awesome. What I think is so great about programs like the Youth DX Adventure is that it captures one of the core themes and traditions of the hobby called amateur radio. And that theme is giving back graciously. I'm sure you are all aware that the Youth DX Adventure was founded in 2010 by a man named David Coulter. His call sign was KB8OCP. He and his buddies decided that after a contest in Costa Rica, they wanted to enable the same experiences for youth operators who had never been on a DXpedition. The idea was born and made into a reality soon after. These guys like David Coulter and Don Dubon and Jim Storms all found a way to give back to amateur radio and have impacted the next generation of youth operators. I felt their impact firsthand when I was on that 2017 Youth DX Adventure in Costa Rica. And what participating in the Youth DX Adventure enabled went far beyond just that week in Costa Rica. It brought me to my first hamvention, where I met so many awesome people and made a lot of quality connections that ultimately enabled a lot of really cool opportunities for me. One of those was competing in the World Radio Sport Team Championship in Germany. It also gave me many speaking engagement opportunities since I had a story to share with the rest of the community. So by age 15, ham radio had already provided me so much, and I was so eager to give back as a way of saying thank you. I found that role of giving back through the Youth on the Air organization. They had a summer camp in 2021, and I had a chance to share my enthusiasm for contesting in CW with an even more enthusiastic audience of young hams. I got to give a workshop about contesting and had the chance to give pointers about operating high-frequency communications. Again, this weekend will go far beyond just the week you have at K3LR. One of my favorite stories about the impacts of Youth DX Adventure is how it impacted Violetta Latham. Her call sign is now KN2P. She felt so energized and led and encouraged after going on a Youth DX Adventure to Curacao in 2018. She then started a movement for youth in contesting, and that movement was called Team Exuberance, and it was highly successful, still is. So after the contest is over this weekend, and you all return home to prepare for the school year, You guys, as members of the Youth DX Adventures, have a responsibility and opportunity to look around and maybe in your schools, in your radio clubs, to find people, especially your own peers, to invest in. Maybe help them with an antenna project or learn a concept for their next license exam. Look at it this way. If you told 5 people about our great hobby and community, and they each went on to tell 5 people, and then those 5 people went on to tell 5 more people, you will have impacted more than 100 people about ham radio. And I think that is so incredible. That's what makes ham radio so awesome, in my opinion. It brings together so many people from around the world with a diverse interest in backgrounds and stories. The possibilities are truly limitless. I wish you all a fantastic weekend on the radio at K3LR. Have fun in 73.
Okay, Brian, we're gonna look for you tomorrow. You better call in.
I'm gonna plan.
Unless you're pitching somewhere.
Oh, this is my off weekend, so I'll definitely be giving y'all a call.
Well, thanks so much, Brian, for your inspiration, your dedication to the hobby, and of course, just real quick, a little 30 seconds on how we met. How did you and I get hooked up for the first time?
That's a great story. So I was really interested in CW contesting, and I didn't have a CW key at the time, and it was late 2016 in November when the CQ Worldwide CW contest was going on. The only thing I had for a CW key was a hand microphone. And I just so happened that K3OR was CQing in the general portion of the 40-meter band. So I heard K3OR call, I called in using my pen, like, and luckily the operator had the patience to deal with me because he came back and we were able to, execute a QSO. And I sent you a QSL card and got to tell you a really interesting story about how I use my hand mic to execute this contact, which I did for like 52 that weekend. It's mind blowing just to think about. And then you generously became a really strong mentor and investor in me, which I am so grateful for. I'm so grateful for our relationship in general.
Well, I'm glad your mom didn't, she was worried about her credit card being used by DX Engineering. But we sent him a key, and so we didn't have to use the hand mic anymore. But Brian, thank you so much for coming on and all you do. And we look forward to hearing your progress as well. And I think you've been an inspiration to the parents and the kids here today. So thank you again.
Well, thank you for letting me speak to them. And again, I will be sure to call this weekend. See you guys on the air.
All righty. 73, Brian.
73.
Okay. Let's go back in. So welcome, everybody. As part of the Youth DX Adventure, we have presentations from all 4 of our operators that will be Whiskey 3 Yankee tomorrow. Our first one is Grace, KE8RJU. Go ahead, Grace.
Thank you, Tim. Hello, everybody. Just like Tim said, my name is Grace Pepe, Kilo Echo 8 Romeo Juliet uniform. I was licensed in my freshman year of high school at the age of 15. In 2021, my grandpa was celebrating 60 years of being an amateur radio operator, and that was the main reason why I got licensed, to honor him. I didn't know how amateur radio was going to affect my life until after I got licensed and made all of my new friends. Currently, my main interest is amateur radio satellites, and I am enjoying the challenge of amateur radio satellites. One challenging contact I was able to have was being able to work a station in Hawaii, KJ7NDY. This is a challenging contact because the footprints are very small, and any problem you might have will cost you the contact. So we got our gear together and we went up to a local park, Tunnel Park, because our QTH is surrounded by trees and you need a good horizon to be able to work. So we went up to Tunnel Park and we were able to make the contacts, both my dad and my mom and I, which was able to complete my worked all states, which I was striving for, all states on satellite, which is a pretty big accomplishment for me. Ham radio is a license to learn. Ham radio has brought me new friends and international community, and ham radio is always challenging me to grow at any time I'm on the air. Anytime I'm on the air, I'm looking to grow and learn something new, even if it's just speed or speeding up your contacts. An aspect of the hobby that I'm always learning is the Doppler effect and how satellites are orbiting and how they affect signals and how you can better use them to make contacts at different distant places. One example of real-time learning I was able to have after I was licensed was I wanted to go portable at a local apple orchard. So I got all my gear, I got my arrow, I got my HT, it made sure it was programmed. And so then we went out to the orchard. I got permission from the local, the owner, to operate, which was pretty exciting. And then we were able to make my contacts. So real-time learning, no matter where you're operating, is always important. A wealth of knowledge is shared within the amateur radio community. Anyone of any age, any ham always has some knowledge to share. One real-time learning experience was when I was at Youth on the Air camp last week. I was able to learn from Leon, Delta Lima 3 Oscar November, about WRTC and what that is. I didn't have anything to know. He actually competed at WRTC and learned more about contesting in some more proper form. Also, at Youth on the Air camp, me and Katie, K8LQR, were able to set up and deploy a 20-meter HF station in a local park, which I had never operated and deployed an HF antenna myself. So that experience is always great to learn about too. Ham radio community comes in many forms. From a retired school teacher, Jim Jipping, W8MRR, who is just a shining smile at our local club, always has a good word for me. Also at Dayton, we were able to meet representatives of JARL. So it was really exciting to meet them because as they were representing their country, as it had many more J's in my log with our new satellite. They were also excited to hear the contacts we were being able to make with their hams. They also had some pretty sweet candy, so if you're at Dayton next year, check out their candy. Any international food is always fun. The youth community also is very encouraging. I'm a part of YACHT, the Young Amateur Communication Ham Team, which has many youths that encourage you in whatever aspect of the hobby you're doing, from CW, POTA, satellites, anything you want to talk about, they're very willing to talk about. Also, attending 2 Youth on the Air camps has widened my knowledge of amateur radio, and participating in a field day where we had 12 youth, licensed youth, including myself, operating at least one contact was also encouraging. Ham radio is serious and a fun hobby all at the same time. From chasing satellites to collecting awards, ham radio is a great way to learn. One fun contact I had was with Jim, November Delta 9, Mike, Maritime Mobile, while he was sailing from the US to Europe and back. It was sort of like, where's Jim going to be next? What new grid am I going to be able to work? So always having the community is fun. Another great way to encourage yourself in the hobby is chasing awards, like VUCC, 100 grids on satellite, or worked all states, as I mentioned before. So making these contacts with other stations requires determination. If you're trying to work DXCC, you may reach out to a station To try to get your 100th DXCC or tracing grid squares, you may reach out and ask if they can make a contact with you. Reaching out is an important way to gain this community and learn many ways. Amateur radio is about learning, community fun, and challenging all at the same time, and this is what amateur radio means to me. Thank you.
Lori, let's put Ben's slides up. Ben, you're up. So this is Ben, 88FQ, and he's going to speak about what ham radio means to him. How old are you, Ben?
15.
Okay.
So and got my extra at 11. I'm active in PCARS, the Portage County Amateur Radio Service, right here in Northeast Ohio. I was introduced to ham radio when I was about 6, and my dad entered the hobby. I remember being immediately intrigued by the possibility of talking to people worldwide. When I was 8 years old, my dad challenged me to pursue my technician license. He told me, "I can push you to study every day. Do you want me to push you?" I said yes. I never imagined how far that decision would take me. Once I saw my brand new call sign in the FCC database, KE8JUZ, for anyone keeping track, I looked for every opportunity to get on the air. This started with simple conversations with my dad on some HTs and progressed to our club Thursday night nets. My first attempt at contesting was a RIDI contest, and I was fortunate to have some good Elmers from PCARS to help me out and show me the ropes. I enjoyed the challenge of RIDI, and to this day, I prefer it more than popular modes like FT8. As I continued to participate in contests with my club, I started to realize how limited I was with only the technician class license. I wanted to contest from home, and to do that, I needed HF privileges. Pretty much everyone in PCARS encouraged me to upgrade my license, but my top motivation was staying one step ahead of my two sisters. Bernadette and Agnes were preparing to take their technician test, so I had no time to lose. I studied hard and, still only 10 years old, passed my general exam. With the license upgrade, I now had access to the HF bands and could finally participate in contests from home. Of course, I wasn't satisfied with my general class license. I knew Agnes was hot on my heels, and besides, I wanted to finish what I started. I studied hard, and the same day my sister upgraded to general, I upgraded to extra. Now, despite my competitiveness, I was happy to see Agnes advance quickly. I was glad to be able to participate in contests at home with her. It was good timing for her to upgrade too, because a couple of weeks later, at the beginning of 2020, everything shut down. Fortunately, during the COVID lockdowns, a lot of people stepped up in the ham radio world. Right away, there were a bunch of opportunities to continue learning. PCARS moved their meetings to Zoom, and my sister Agnes and I started taking Zoom Morse code classes with the Long Island CW Club. It took me a few months of practice, but eventually, with the help of my Elmer, now silent key Terry, KB8AMZ, I learned how to set up my radio and hook up my straight key. He also gave me tips on what to send and how to be effective when sending code. A few minutes after getting on the air, I was thrilled to complete my very first CW QSO. With my newly acquired code skills, I was eager to try out CW during a contest. I knew I still had a lot to learn, but there was no better way to learn than to get on the air. Since we were already planning to work the Ohio QSO party from home that year, I figured it would be a perfect chance for some live practice. I started with a search and pounce approach, but I wasn't hearing a lot of stations calling. I did manage a single contact, but I figured it was time to call CQ. That opened up the airwaves for me. I made a handful of contacts right away, and there was a big confidence boost for me. Ham radio has opened up a lot of opportunities and experiences for me over the last few years. I was scheduled to speak in the Hamvention Youth Forum in 2020, but we all know how that played out. But the lockdown opened up some unexpected possibilities. I was a guest along with my dad and sister on the Tuesdays with Tim and Jeff podcast. It was pretty neat. I still remember Jeff, KB8ZWT, saying to Tim, "I have a feeling they're going to be sitting next to you one of these days in that station doing some contesting." They encouraged me to continue developing my skills, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I was also a presenter with my two sisters at the first ever QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. That was an interesting challenge. The presentations were all pre-recorded, which meant my sisters and I didn't have to stand in one spot. So we recorded from the entire house and even outside. My sister Bernadette, KE8LWO, put her video editing skills to the test, and in the end, we produced something pretty good. After a long wait, Hamvention was back last year in 2022, and Carol Perry, WB2MGP, invited Agnes and me to present at the Youth Forum. This wasn't pre-recorded, so Agnes and I really had to practice. Carol was very encouraging and made sure it was a great experience for all of us. In conclusion, when I think of what ham radio means to me, I think of endless possibilities and connections. Ham radio has taught me valuable skills like problem solving, communication, and teamwork. It's given me the opportunity to meet people from all over the country and all over the world. Ham radio has also strengthened my bond with my family as we participate in radio activities together. It brought mentors into my life who don't just teach me radio, but also support me as a person. I am grateful for the opportunities and experiences I've already had and look forward to continuing my journey in this amazing hobby. Thank you, and 73.
Great job, Ben. Good job. Let's, Corey, if we can bring up Katie's slides. Katie, you're up. This is Katie Campbell, KE8LQR. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. So, this is what amateur radio means to me. We can switch to the next slide. One more. Okay. So, I first got licensed at 10 years old. My school started an amateur radio club right after they told me about it, so I was like, okay, I could give this a try. And at 10 years old, I really had absolutely no idea what ham radio was going to turn out to be. So I studied from about November to March, passed my tech, and then was like, while I'm at it, since I'm in the studying mood, I'll just go for the general. So about a month later, I got my general, and then after that, I was like, well, we can't just stop with the general. We have to get the extra. So at 11 years old, I passed my extra exam. And at that point, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with ham radio. I had all these licenses. So we went to my first field day, and I met a gentleman there who really encouraged me to go into CW. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with that. So I kind of put it aside. And if you want to switch to the next slide. A little bit before that, we'd gone to Hamvention 2019. And at that point, I was really focusing on amateur radio as a learning opportunity. So I got to meet Ruth Willett, KM4LAO, and she was super into the satellites. So I was like, okay, well, I could try out satellites. And I also got to meet some of the youngsters on the air, or YODA representatives. So they kind of showed me that that was an option too. And at this point, ham radio for me was really just, okay, I can learn a lot from this hobby. Like, there's a lot of different people that I could meet and learn from. And I've actually stayed pretty active with both of these groups or people. I was just at Youth on the Air camp in Ottawa with Ruth last week, and she was showing me how to do some satellites. And obviously that's associated with YODA as well. So after a little bit of a pause for COVID and everything, we got to go back to Hamvention 2022, and I had the opportunity to present with YLRL at their session, their forum. And it was really interesting because Hamvention 2022 was the first time that I actually got to meet like a whole bunch of people, and I made some really amazing connections. In that picture, there's some ladies from the YLRL, and they've been super supportive of me, helping me not only with ham radio, but just life stuff in general. And then that's with Ruth Willett again, my sister and I. Between Hamvention 2019 and Hamvention 2022, we actually got my little sister licensed. I'm hoping she was a little bit inspired by me, maybe. But it's been a really good way to learn different things, not only like school stuff, like geography, math, science, but also just about soft skills, like communication, how to talk to people. So ham radio has been super influential there as well. I had the opportunity to attend the Huntsville Ham Fest last year, and there's a couple interesting stories here. So as a 12-year-old during the pandemic, I had an okay idea of who was who in the ham radio world. And I was really looking up to all of these kids like Team Exuberance who were super active, and I was like, I want to be just like them. So I actually got to meet Audrey McElroy, KM4BUN at Huntsville last year. And I also got to meet two of the young ladies who are currently in my CW classes. I teach the kids intermediate and advanced classes for the Long Island CW Club. And usually we don't meet up in person because we're all over the world. But I had the opportunity to meet these young ladies. Their names are Jenna and Avery. And Jenna's actually blind. So this was the first time that we'd met in person. And my mom actually introduced me, so it wasn't me talking. And she came up and she said, Katie, you sound so much better in person. I was like, oh, well, that's my mom, but I'll take it as a compliment. So it's always super cool to get to meet the people that you talk to. And since then, we've become pretty close friends. And it's really nice to just have ham radio as a way to make friends with people who don't live near you. So you're expanding your horizons a little bit. So recently, I've been very active presenting different places with amateur radio. I got to present in Carol Perry's Youth Forum at Hamcation in 2022, and Carol has been super supportive of all of my ham radio and non-ham radio endeavors. And I also got to meet Cindy and Steve Goodgame at Hamcation 2023, which was super cool. Just getting to meet them and kind of get a feel for the ARL atmosphere there as well. And I also got to make some other connections at Hamcation. And it's, again, super cool because I can learn from all of these people and form that community as well. I got to attend Hamvention again this year. And in the picture on the far side, I actually got to meet Violetta Latham, which was a super cool experience. She was one of the girls, or the YLs, who I'd looked up to for a while. Been like, I want to be just like them. So it was super cool getting to meet her. And then I was also a presenter at the Carol Perry Youth Forum there as well. And finally getting to meet some YODA representatives from Region 1 was super exciting as well. I was invited to present at CPAC this year, which was a very interesting experience. Before I was active in ham radio, I hadn't really traveled much. So through these different presentations and through making all these connections, I've been able to travel a lot, which has been super educational for me. It kind of goes with the learning theme, where I can learn about different cultures and just different things throughout the world, and also make these connections. In the far picture, I'm with a young lady who is actually with the ARL collegiate program. So I got to learn, okay, like these are what colleges are doing with amateur radio right now. This is what I could do in the future. So it's super cool to be able to do that. I'm also a member of YACHT, or Young Amateur Communication Ham Team. I've been a member of YACHT for probably 4 years now, since I was about 12. And YACHT for me has opened up so many doorways. I've made friends all throughout the world, New Zealand, Wales, England, and just been able to realize how many kids there are in amateur radio and what we're all doing. And like Grace said, you can get on the YACHT.net, and if you want to talk about CW, you can talk about CW. There's someone there to talk about that with. Or you want to talk about POTA, you can talk about POTA because there's someone who does that. So it's a really great resource for me anyway to find like mentors and Elmers in different areas that I might not have locally. I also got to attend Yoda Camp both this year and last year, and that was a super educational and very, very fun experience for me. In the far picture, we're operating satellites a little bit. There's Grace and I doing POTA from this year. And then Yoda Camp was also a great experience, especially this year, to meet some of my friends that I'd talked to online or on the air for a little bit, but I'd never actually met. The kid in this picture, his name is Theo. He's from Argentina. He does a lot of satellite operations. And I got to meet him for the first time at this camp. So it's super cool getting to meet all of these people that like you've known, but you don't actually know. Next slide. And then there's Grace and I again, and Leon, DL3ON. I got to meet him and learn a little bit about WRTC and contesting and that kind of thing. So Yoda Camp was just a super cool experience to be able to meet lots of different people and learn about lots of different things from my peers. So in the future, I'm hoping to continue the legacy of amateur radio. We have a very active school club, K8LPS, and right now we're actually working on getting a station established at the school. Thank you to many generous donations from DX Engineering and lots of local individuals and businesses. We're really trying to get the kids interested and keep it going because it's been super influential and amazing for me, all of the experiences I've had within amateur radio. So I'm hoping to be able to pass that along and have other kids see, okay, like I can learn lots of different stuff from this, not just like science and tech stuff, but I can also learn like how to talk to other people, how to communicate effectively. So we just we're working on putting in a tower right now, and we're super excited about that. And then we also operate. So we like to get them as much hands-on experience as possible. So that's my little sister operating her first field day. It was actually kind of funny because we have this field day set up, and she gets on the air, she calls CQ once, and she goes, "Katie, where's my pile-up?" And I explained to her that you might have to call CQ more than once to get a pile-up, but she did end up getting a pile-up. I mean, I guess just the wild voice. And then over here, we're operating satellites. After I learned at Yoda Camp, I kind of took it back to my school club and was like, hey, let's do some satellites. And they were all super excited about it. So overall, we just try to pass on the legacy of amateur radio and help as many people with it as possible.
Hey, Corey, Agnes, you're up. And this is Agnes, 88IR. And how old are you, Agnes?
13.
13. How long have you been licensed?
5 years.
5 years. Jeez. Very cool. Can't wait to see your slide deck. Go ahead, Agnes.
So, hello everyone, I'm Agnes, 88IR. To quickly introduce myself, I was first licensed when I was 8 years old, upgraded general when I was 9, and finally got my amateur extra at age 11. Key source of inspiration behind my licensing journey was my brother, who already had his tech license before I even started studying. Being an innately competitive individual, I felt compelled not only to match his achievement, but to exceed it. So, while he passed his exam at the age of 9, I ambitiously determined to do the same at age 8. Another driving force was my fascination with shiny things and buttons, which made radios irresistible. That reminds me, Dad, you did bring your credit card, right? After receiving my tech license, I was exhilarated at the prospect of finally going on the air. In celebration, my siblings and I, along with some close friends, planned an on-air get-together. Naturally, my dad prepared me ahead of time with some simple instructions. Hold the button down for a second before you speak, make sure you speak clearly, give your call sign, etc. Once it was my turn, though, the nerves overwhelmed me. I couldn't even press the button, and I ended up in tears. But I did learn a new phrase that day, mic fright. Despite my initial setbacks, I continued my journey. Contesting became a valuable tool in this journey, providing a structured environment and a ready script, meaning I didn't have to ponder over words. However, since I was just a tech, I had to operate under someone else with a higher call sign in order to get on HF, which usually meant I was working under my brother's call sign. That pushed me to study hard so I could upgrade to general as soon as possible. Attaining my general class license at 9 seemed victory. But of course, my brother upgraded to extra the very same day. I wasn't satisfied to stay a step behind Ben, but the 2020 lockdown and my own penchant for procrastination sent the two of us on a Morse code detour with the Long Island CW Club. These classes were very enjoyable, filled with games, and they helped us quickly develop our CW skills. I particularly enjoyed playing Hangman in the advanced classes. Having added the CW notch to my belt and the Morse code interpreter patch to my scout uniform, I decided it was time to revisit the extra license exam. After a substantial study effort, I passed my extra exam at age 11, the same age as my brother. So I didn't beat him, but the detour was worth it. I'm a naturally quiet and reserved person. I get nervous around unfamiliar people, and I'm usually content to sit quietly and listen. But despite my initial mic fright, ham radio found my voice. You know the power meters with those nice clear needles? Well, I really like to see how far I can move said needle. It was pretty funny to hear the surprise from people in my ham radio club as they said things like, "Wow, she has a voice." In addition to competing in lots of contests with my club, sometimes my family likes to go portable, and OSPATA, Ohio State Parks in the Air, quickly became one of my favorite contests. Every year, we've improved our technique and our gear. Let me tell you, we've come a long way from our first year. That was a last-minute camping trip with a buddy pole antenna mounted to a picnic table. Not a great plan. Last year, armed with improved skill and a much nicer end-fed antenna, we finished second in our class. Despite the personal investment I've made in learning how to speak on the air, digital modes, especially FT8 and FT4, are my favorites. The digital modes give me another way to communicate without speaking. And those buttons and waterfalls on the computer screen are pretty nifty too. I'm fascinated by all the modern technology in amateur radio, and so I've even experimented with digital modes like D-Star. Yes, even though I have to talk. Ham radio is a lot of fun, but I've seen the pragmatic side too. I don't have a phone, and I like biking. So my parents installed an HT mount on my bike. It's convenient for basic communication, and my parents can call me home for dinner. They're also happy I have a way to communicate in case there's ever an emergency. I'm also a big fan of just getting on the air. There's almost always some contest, some rare DX station, or a special event. A couple of weeks ago, I participated in the 13 Colony special event. Unfortunately, that was the same week I attended summer camp, which meant I only had a couple of hours to make my contacts. I put in my best effort, but I fell short of my goal. I just couldn't get those last 2 colonies in Special Event Station. So close. Still, the fun comes from the effort, so I had a lot of fun. So, the topic for today is what ham radio means to me. Well, to me, it means learning, challenging myself, pushing myself to improve, and exploring new technology. It means sharing a passion with my parents and siblings and meeting new friends. It means having fun. I'm so glad I could be here today. Thank you, everyone.
Great job, Agnes. Okay, so that concludes our presentations for today. We want to get the parents and the kids maybe in front of the screen. I want to get a good photo